Hello, everybody. So we've had a cancelled October so far, but finally, the day that we all expected, the second rate cut of the year just happened. Powell cut the rates by 25 basis points, and as always, you see the market maker shenanigans. It drops. Everybody wants it to drop, and then during the speech, the market just goes back up, and of course, it did that pretty hard on the NASDAQ, and of course Bitcoin was going to react even worse. This is a pattern of manipulation that we've seen over and over again. I would not worry about that over the long run, even the medium term, even the next few weeks. To me, we are going to recover, but this news was very much priced in. So today, 25 basis point, that was expected. Positively, one member of the board voted for 50 basis points. So you can see there is some dissent and people wanting more cuts. And unemployment seems to be becoming an issue, and that it did the usual, oh, we are committed to 2%, etc., etc. Just an hour of just babbling and frankly a lot of very irrelevant journalists and a lot of very irrelevant things were said during that conference. That's just my opinion. I know a lot of people love the Fed, but not me, not on this channel. We don't love that at all. He signaled the end of QT by December 1, which is a big deal, which if there's no QT anymore, that means we are going to have some form of a QE by the commercial banks, at least, that are going to just be lending much more money as the rates drop. The money will be released. Remember, most of the money is created by commercial banks. You don't need the Fed to do open market operations. That's just added fuel. But just the fact that we end QT and the fact that the rates drop means that the commercial banks are just going to create a bunch more money, and they're going to create money again. And this is it. Like, monetary inflation is just going to go through the roof. As Lynn Alden says, nothing stops this train. We're going to have a massive amount of money printing. We also have more than $7 trillion of money parked in money market accounts, which as of today will be earning 25 basis points less, and that money will be moving to new assets and hopefully risk-on assets, as represented by the NASDAQ and Bitcoin. And of course, the Nasdaq was down a little bit, but a lot of optimism on Nvidia and Google. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Nvidia and Google today. So let's talk about Nvidia. So about Nvidia, I want to take a second to discuss Nvidia and the GTC conference that happened in Washington yesterday. I watched the entire thing. Back in the day when it was Apple, it was the largest company, I would watch Apple events. Now I watch Nvidia's events. And I just can't emphasize enough how big this story is. It is much bigger than a lot of us anticipated. Lots of announcements. GGX 300 made in the USA, fully creating a full supply chain in the USA. AI is at the heart of so many industries, as outlined for this presentation, and he goes through all of the different industries. Noteworthy today, they're getting into telecom with Nokia and 6G, and they're also getting into quantum, into the error correction of qubits. They're creating computers to error correct the qubits, which is kind of like the big hurdle in quantum and accessing quantum computers. Is when you measure the qubit, there's errors. They're using GPUs, and they're developing a full offering of a GPU stack in order to error correct quantum qubit measurement. And that's actually a big deal, because that means that Nvidia could be in a position to ride the quantum computer wave whenever that comes. But to me, the number that struck in that presentation was the demand for products being through the roof. Jensen talked about $500 billion in sales over the next 5 quarters. $500 billion over the next 5 quarters. What does that tell us? That tells us that number here that I have at 63% growth next 12 months, Well, I'm way off. If you do 165 billion times 1.63, you don't get anywhere near 500. So if that number is true, this is a company that could grow sales by well over 100% next 12 months, well over that. And so if that were to be the case, EV over GP over RG might be a 0.3, which is crazy. So I've already praised Nvidia as being the cheapest of the Max 7 firms that I've done in a few videos ago, like 4 videos ago or something. Well, it might get even cheaper. If they actually achieve 500 billion in sales over the next 5 quarters, that's just going to be tremendous, and that means the growth rate is probably closer to 150%. And that would be tremendous because remember, they make 70% gross margin. So this company is just a cash machine. They're just throwing cash at everybody, partnering with Palantir, partnering with Nokia. That's just for this announcement. Every other month we get another announcement for Nvidia. So this company is firing on all cylinders, and even though the market is spooked by the fact that the market cap of the company is 5 trillion, when you actually look at the numbers backing this company and the growth rate backing this company, we realize it's actually not that much compared to what you are getting. They are really at the heart of a new revolution. They're kind of like a new Microsoft, if you will, or a new IBM. So anyways, that's for Nvidia. Very, very bullish stuff, and I own Nvidia, by the way. Let's talk about MSTR. So MSTR is the same story as always. It's been the same story for like a month and a half, 2 months now. I just repeat myself at this point. It's the story of MNAV compression. Yeah, we lost 0.01 in MNAV today compared to the day before. But at the risk of making people mad, I'm still going to say that today we dropped a little less than we should have. Yesterday we dropped more than we should have. Today we dropped a little less than we should have because it's 2.7% was Bitcoin crashing. Bitcoin was crashing by 2.7%. Strategy in theory should have dropped by more than 4%. It dropped by 3.6, actually 2.9 if you look at after hours. So it dropped a little less than it should have. We get a teeny tiny reprieve, but yeah, it's still crashing, right? Over multiple days, it's still crashing. I think the market is fearful of earnings. But you see, aside from Q2, which was catastrophic for them, their August Q2 was just bad. But aside from that, usually the stock doesn't really move on earnings. And I'm hoping that tomorrow night the stock won't move much on earnings, as it usually doesn't move too much on earnings. Note, and this is so noteworthy, note how today on a stock where IBIT was way down, MSTR was way down, Stretch, and we know Saylor said Stretch is the only preferred he wishes he had created. He said that in a recent interview. He wishes he had this idea first. Stretch is up on the day. On a day that is so negative for risk assets, Stretch is up on the day. Mechanistically, in my view, they will get it to 100. If so, we get another 25 basis point, and we are gonna get a dividend increase. Think more than the next trading week. Think over the next 1 month. He has a way to force it to be at $100 by raising the yield by another 25 basis point and likely another cut that we get in December. Boom, you'll be there, because the delta between the risk-free rate, quote unquote, the delta between SOFR and what Stretch pays, that delta is going to naturally increase, which means that the stock price has to increase in conjunction with the delta. So that's why I'm very bullish about this. The ATM is gonna get started and go in full droves whenever Stretch trades at 100. But yeah, right now we're still compressing, but this is a long-term hold. This is a long-term story, so I'm not perturbed by it at all. Talking about Google, my last video on big tech, right? I praised Google. I told you, I think Google is essentially safer than bonds, safer than fiat in my view. Google is a nice position for me. I like Google. I treat it like a savings account type stock, but it seems like they're doing very, very well. And it's true that in a day where you have a AWS outage, Azure outage, Google Cloud is gaining a lot of share. Google Cloud is growing at 34%, and it's very interesting to see that we are likely 1 quarter away. We are likely 1 quarter away from search being less than half of the revenue. And so the day search is less than half of the revenue, you're losing a lot of that negative narrative around search being disrupted by AI. That narrative, by the way, did not last very long. That narrative lasted like a few months, from February to like, I don't know, June, and then it didn't last very long. So I love Google very much. I always say a few things. YouTube, if YouTube was a standalone company, it would probably be much more valuable than Netflix. Unfortunately, it's not. There's a major diversification discount that Google suffers from. And keeping in mind their 7% stake in SpaceX, in my view, is still not shown in the market cap of Google, which even though it may seem really high. So I like Google very much, happy to see it up. And I'll conclude with kind of a general statement. Chinese trade deal. Is a Chinese trade deal coming tomorrow? Well, first of all, you had this tweet from the president about, we're bringing back trillions of dollars to America. We're going to meet, wonderful leaders tomorrow. I'm meeting Xi for a great meeting for both of us. So he's already, touting the meeting. Keep in mind that we should get news starting tonight. As I record this, it's 6:27 a.m. in South Korea as I record this. So they're waking up over there. So we should get some news starting this evening. But if you look at the history, so he goes to Japan and he says, there's a $550 billion of deal. Most of it has to do with energy, like nuclear stuff. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. It's about the headline number. We signed $550 billion worth of deal. Then Korea, you see this morning, he says, we signed a deal with Korea. So he goes to Japan, he signs a deal with Japan. He goes to Korea, he signs a deal with Korea. You really think he's not going to say something positive about China? I think we have a pattern. I think we will have something positive about China. And so that means tomorrow should be a very positive day, at least for me. And I look forward to tomorrow. So hopefully, fingers crossed, everything goes well and we get some good news even tonight. Anyways, so this was not investment advice. This is not financial advice. This is only entertainment. I hope you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful, wonderful day.